Egypt, 50 centuries ago, when her culture...
There's a tree that produces over 100 pounds of fruit per year. It lives for over a century. It grows in extreme heat with barely any water. But you've probably never been told to plant one. The ancient Egyptians built their agriculture around crops like this. Drought-resistant, nutrient-dense, and simple to grow without chemicals or industrial equipment. These crops fed a civilization for 3,000 years. But then, one by one, they were replaced by crops that yield more per acre but need more water, more chemicals, and more money to grow. Here are 7 ancient Egyptian crops that modern agriculture left behind. Not because they stopped working, because they weren't profitable enough. Number 1, the original wheat, emmer wheat. This is the one that changes everything you think you know about bread. Emmer was the main food in Egypt for over 3,000 years. Every loaf of bread, every jar of beer, every worker's paycheck at the pyramids, all of it came from emmer. It's an older, simpler type of wheat. Modern bread wheat was changed and crossbred over 50 times in the last 70 years to make it grow faster and produce more. But every time they changed it, they lost something. Here's what they lost. Emmer has more protein than modern wheat, more fiber, more minerals like magnesium, zinc, and iron. And the gluten in emmer is softer and gentler. A lot of people who feel bloated after eating regular bread find that emmer doesn't bother them the same way. Studies have shown that ancient wheat like emmer is more nutritious than the wheat we eat today. Modern wheat actually has less protein now than it used to. They traded nutrition for speed, more empty carbs, less of the good stuff. But here's what should make you angry. Emmer still exists. It grows great in hot, dry places with very little water. It fights off disease better than modern wheat. It doesn't need all the sprays and chemicals that big wheat farms use. But it doesn't grow as much per field. And it takes longer to process in a factory because the outer shell sticks to the grain. So the industry dropped it, not because it was worse, but because it made them less money. You can still find emmer online and in some specialty stores. It makes better bread, better pasta, and better beer than anything on a regular grocery shelf. The Egyptians knew that 4,000 years ago. The food industry decided you didn't need to. Number 2, the fabric you could eat. Flax is a crop that makes modern farming look embarrassing. The Egyptians grew flax for 2 things at once. The fibers made linen, their main clothing, their wrapping for mummies, also their biggest trade product. The seeds made oil, which is used for cooking, lamp fuel, and medicine. 1 crop, 2 whole industries, nothing wasted. Flax seeds are about 40% healthy fat, the same kind of fat people now pay big money for in fish oil pills. They're also packed with fiber and natural compounds that protect your body from damage. The Egyptians didn't need a vitamin aisle, they had a field of flax. So, what took its place? Cotton replaced linen for clothes, but cotton drinks up water and needs heavy spraying. Thus, canola oil and soybean oil replaced flax oil for cooking. Both are heavily processed, and both come from crops that people barely ate before the 1900s. And the cloth industry? Taken over by man-made fabrics made from oil. 1 ancient crop that gave you clothes, cooking oil, and medicine. Replaced by 3 different industries that all run on chemicals and factories. Flax still grows great in hot, dry places. But nobody tells you about it because there's no money in it for them. Number 3, the underground energy bar, tiger nuts. Most people have never even heard of them. They're not nuts. They're small roots that grow underground, like tiny potatoes. The Egyptians dried them, crushed them into flour, and mixed the flour with honey to make thick, sweet cakes. Easy to carry, packed with energy, lasted for months without going bad. Ancient energy bars, about 4,000 years before your protein bar existed. They're full of fiber, healthy fats, and a special kind of starch that's good for your gut and doesn't spike your blood sugar the way normal carbs do. People still eat them in parts of Africa and Spain, where they make a cold drink out of them. You can order them online right now, but you won't find them at your local store, because tiger nuts can't be grown in giant single-crop fields. They can't be patented, and they can't be turned into something that sits on a shelf for a year. They don't fit the system. So the system pretended they don't exist. Number 4, the grain that doesn't need rain. Sorghum, one of the oldest grains in Africa, grown in Egypt since before the pyramids were built, but right now, in the West, it's mostly used to feed animals. Think about that. A grain that has no gluten, handles drought, grows in brutal heat, and gives you solid harvests with very little water. But we give it to cows instead of eating it ourselves. Sorghum needs way less water than corn or wheat. It grows in places where normal farm crops would just die. It's full of protein, and it doesn't need the chemical life support that big corn farms run on. In Africa and Asia, hundreds of millions of people still eat sorghum every day. In America and Australia, it's treated like a second-class crop. Why? Because sorghum doesn't work well with the factory machines built for modern wheat. It doesn't make soft white bread. It doesn't look like what shoppers are used to. So instead of changing the machines to fit the grain, the industry changed what people eat to fit the machines. Number 5, the paper you could eat. Papyrus. Here's something nobody tells you. It was food before it was paper. The roots and lower stems of the papyrus plant were pulled out of the marshes along the Nile, peeled and eaten raw, boiled, or roasted. They were full of starch and nutrition. Papyrus was also ground into flour. On top of that, the same plant made boats, rope, mats, and baskets, sandals, and the one everyone knows, the world's first writing material. One plant. Dozens of uses, no factory needed. Nobody has grown papyrus for food in centuries. People treat it like a museum piece. But it's a water-loving plant that grows fast, needs no chemicals to grow, and comes back after you cut it. We spend billions looking for crops that are good for the planet, and we're ignoring one that worked for 5,000 years because you can't put a patent on a swamp reed. Number 6, the pharaoh's protein. Fava beans, the original falafel, the original Egyptian protein crop. Grown since before 3150 BC, ancient Egyptian cooks mashed fava beans with garlic, onions, and spices, shaped them into little patties, and fried them. That's tamia, what most of the world now calls falafel. Fava beans are loaded with protein, fiber, iron, and important vitamins. And here's the best part. They actually put nutrients back into the dirt they grow in instead of draining it, which is the opposite of what most modern crops do. So, what replaced them? Soybeans, a crop that was barely in anyone's diet before the 1950s. Now, it's in almost every processed food you can buy. Soy needs giant single-crop farms, heavy spraying, and it's been tied to forests being cut down across South America. Fava beans give you the same nutrition at a tiny fraction of the damage to the land. But they're harder to run through a factory, and they don't have a billion-dollar industry pushing them. So they sit on the bench while soy runs the show. Number 7, the tree that never dies, the date palm. This might be the most underrated food source in human history. One date palm can give you over 100 pounds of fruit per year. It can do this for decades. Some of these trees live and keep producing for over 100 years. The fruit is packed with sugar, potassium, fiber, and iron. Dried dates last for months. No fridge, no processing, no packaging needed. During famines in ancient Egypt, dates were sometimes the only thing keeping whole communities alive. But it's not just the fruit. The wood was used to build things. The leaves were made into baskets and roofing. The sap was turned into wine. One tree, which was used for food, building material, and alcohol, for 100 years, with almost no work. Date palms grow in the worst heat on the planet. They do well in conditions that would kill almost any other food crop. If you live in Arizona, Texas, the Gulf, or the Australian outback, date palms already grow where you are. But modern farming treats them like some kind of specialty item. Something fancy, something you pick up at a health food store for $6 a bag. The Egyptians built their whole economy around this tree. We tossed it into a trail mix and forgot about it. And that tells you everything about how modern farming decides what you eat. It's not about what grows best. It's not about what's healthiest. It's about what makes the most money. If a crop doesn't fit that model, no matter how tough, how nutritious, how proven, it gets wiped off the menu. So here's the question. If these 7 crops fed a civilization for 3,000 years in one of the toughest climates on Earth, no sprays, no labs, no factories, why aren't they in your grocery store? Because they're too easy to grow. They need too little help. They don't need the chain of chemicals and machines that modern farming depends on. And any crop that doesn't need the system is a problem for the people who sell the system. Emmer wheat still grows, flax still grows, sorghum still grows. And date palms still put out 100 pounds of fruit a year, with almost no help. Tiger nuts still grow underground without watering. Every crop on this list is out there right now. The seeds exist, the knowledge exists. Even the weather hasn't changed that much. The only thing that changed is who gets to decide what goes in the ground. And right now, that choice isn't being made by the people who eat the food. It's being made by the people who sell it. Let me know in the comments which of these 7 crops you've actually tried. And subscribe if this changed how you think about what belongs on your plate.